So how did you and Jonathan get together?
We met at the Blackburn Raves. I was a very excitable young man, young child I was, and I used to do my noise that I do in Hardcore Uproar just to people in the street, and I'm not even kidding. And
Will you give us a rendition, please?
I can't do it anymore. Because I
Stop.
can only do it I can only do it when I was a child. I can't. I literally don't even do it at my gigs anymore. I just sort of pretty much just talk the words out Hardcore Uproar. So I stopped doing it when I was 35. So. I mean, the funny thing about the voices, I don't know if you remember a TV character called Max Headroom.
Yeah.
Because he used to kind of pretty much do what I did in Hardcore Uproar. All it was me doing that impression at school to people in the playground, and it was obviously in the TV show. It was computer generated, and I remember trying to learn how to do it, not thinking it's computer that does it, and humans can't do this noise. But I kind of figured out. I somehow figured out how to do it, and I used to do it to mates at the playground, and realised it'd get amazing reaction. So when Acid House happened and raves and Hacienda, I used to do it to people, and you'd always guaranteed just get this amazing reaction. So me, kind of excitable little kid, used to enjoy doing it to people, and I just did it to Jonathan outside. I think it would have been Ewood Mill, because it was one of the biggest parties in Blackburn. That was like physically the biggest building I've ever seen in my life, and he literally span round on the spot. It was a great reaction. He span round like Michael Jackson does, and kind of did a whoop like Michael Jackson does as well, and just grabbed my arm and come with me. And I don't know where I was going, but I liked his reaction. He took me to a group of people. He went, "Stop, everyone! Stop talking! Stop what you're doing! Listen to this!" And he made me do it, so, and I didn't mind. And I was getting kind of gasps and a positive reaction, let's say. That's all I thought that was going to be. You know what I mean? Just me, just randomly doing my noise. And we hung out that night, and he was telling me about his involvement in the music industry. And I was kind of starstruck because I didn't know anyone in the music industry. I was at college still at that time. And he was saying, "Do you do music?" And I said, "No, but I've got loads of ideas." And I had some of the ideas which ended up in Hardcore Uproar at the time. And it's one of them where, we all can have ideas, but you can't make something happen. But he knew everybody. And the first thing he actually wanted to do was manage me, which I didn't understand any of it. He was just obviously a very clever businessman, savvy, and he was like, let's do a tune, and we'll put our ideas together. And we kind of got in the studio. He wanted one of the really important things about the story of Hardcore Uproar is he wanted a rave crowd to be in a sample of a crowd to be in the tune. And he asked, the original title was "Can You Feel the Beat?" And he asked the organisers of the raves, like Hardcore Uproar, "Can we record your crowds?" Again, I don't know how he knew them. He knew everyone. Record the crowds. You have to call it Hardcore Uproar. So I hated the name at first. I didn't understand just how brilliant it was. And we got a lot of recording equipment. I remember when we hired it from Axis Audio in Stockport and went down with reel-to-reel machine, proper kind of old-style reel-to-reel tape machine and microphones, and took it onto the stage area at the rave. And they stopped the music, went, "Right, we're going to stop the music for you to record the crowd." And there was just silence because everyone thought the sound system had broke down because they didn't usually stop the music. And that's when I kind of went, "Woo!" Kind of, you can hear me at the beginning of the tune, the beginning of Hardcore Uproar doing that. And that was just to kind of get everyone cheering. And somebody did a whistle and somebody else whooped. And the next thing you know, more and more people were cheering. So it just naturally, gradually built up. It wasn't like a normal, imagine like a football crowd that's 30,000 people or whatever plus, what I mean, all cheering at the same time. This was just like, you could literally hear the first person cheering and the next, and it just built up and up and up. And this crowd of thousands of people started cheering at the end of it, and we couldn't believe, kind of the way people were cheering. And we realised we were recording this, hoping it was all recording okay. And we got back, took it to the studio, and the sample was just unbelievable. Although it stopped really abruptly. You'll hear in the record of Hardcore Uproar, we swamp it in reverb so it doesn't stop abruptly. It did stop really abruptly because we just stopped the tape. And yeah, the crazy thing was, as we were packing up our equipment, the police come and raid the rave. And it was, the bizarre thing was, it ended up being the last ever proper Blackburn rave. And
No
we had
way.
we had no idea. We had recorded an incredible piece of history. And there's newspaper clippings, I didn't see him at the time, saying bad boy together, record illegal party and profit out of it. That really portrayed it in a bad light. We thought we were well clever recording this rave. That was the last ever party. It was just amazing. And so that's gone down in history as sort of the recordings in the tune. So our dream, we took it to Spirit Studios, where a guy called Gerald and Pacific State and Stone Roses, loads of Manc bands were coming out of there. And John had studied there anyway because he had a musical, like an engineering course. And it was just like the whole experience was just incredible, just kind of being in an actual recording studio. I'd never experienced anything like that. And putting our ideas down, I'm like playing stuff on a piano and singing stuff to the session musician Mark Hall, who was an unbelievable piano player. We're really lucky to have him on the day. It massively helped the record get even better than it was going to be. And I did the tune, and all we wanted was to hear it in the Hacienda. That was our dream. And Jonathan, knowing everything about music and the industry, he said, let's press 1,000 white labels. I didn't even know what that was. And you get test pressings, you get 25 to kind of like test the cut. And we gave them to, the list now is just amazing. Like Andy Weatherall, Paul Oakenfold, John De Silva, Graham Park. So it was literally 25 best DJs in the country. Sasha got one. And that was on the Thursday. We gave it everyone. Saturday, everybody played it, like Friday and Saturday. I know everybody was calling us, going, we've played your record. And it was like the biggest moment of the night.
Wow.
Yeah, he was the first person. He said, first person to say you got a hit record. He goes, that's a hit. He goes, it's a top 10 tune, that is.
Who was that?
Really?
Sorry, you cut off them, Suddi.
Sorry, that was Sasha.
Sasha, wow.
Yeah, actually, John De Silva said you've got a club hit because he heard it before any DJ on tape. We're outside the Hacienda, and Jonathan in the band with me said to John De Silva, come to the car and have a listen to what we've done. And he heard it, and he said, you've got a club hit there. So he was the first person to spot that there was something, thought it might be something special there. And it just felt like overnight, it got just so big. Like I went to a club, nobody who knew who I was. Do you know what I mean? I was just still a kid from Ashton who was still at college. I had a part-time job at the jam factory, and every single night I'd go out, it was being played everywhere I'd go. And we realised we've got something which is pretty big here. And then City Beat with the first record label to offered a record deal. And I was like, let's go, let's do it. Wow, that's our dream. And Jonathan, knowing what he's doing, he said, no way, let's sit on this. This is way too big for this. And he even said, let's not put out any more white labels. We had like 500 in his house, in his flat. Because we can make loads of money. And he's going, we can make a lot more money if we keep them. Let the demand grow, let everyone want it. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't get anything about supply, demand. Didn't get any of it. I was a giddy old kid who knew nothing about how anything worked. And that's when things got really big with Deconstruction, with the first biggest label to come to us. And they started offering us, I won't say the exact money, but for me, God, as a kid, eye-watering amounts. and like album deals as well. They were like going, like, we'll offer you this just because they wanted the tune. And then
Wow.
Polygram said, we'll beat that. And I was like, I was like, we can't do this, can we? You know what I mean? We're talking to, not like, you know, cheating on someone. Jonathan was like, you know, this is the game. You know, we're in control here. And he said, yeah, let's just at least have a chat with them. That was Pete Tong, FFRR. And he was like, we're going to have this. And we were like, we want to sign to Decon. And he goes, no, we're a much bigger label. But Deconstruction were much cooler, you know what I mean? Manchester indie label. And they started offering us another deal. And the weird thing was that they ended up in a bidding war between each other. And I wasn't mad on it because I didn't know that was kind of like normal in the music industry. But if somebody really wants you, they will bid for you. And the amounts of money that they're offering us were getting bigger and bigger. I was just like, this is mental. All I want to do is hear the tune in the Hacienda, and they're talking about prepare for Top of the Pops. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Wow.
Not long before that, I said to my mum and dad, I'm leaving college, and they're like, really? What exactly are you leaving college for? I said, I'm joining a pop band. Like, bloody no. But when they knew I wanted to do it with Jonathan, they loved Jonathan. Everyone loved Jonathan, and they were like, okay, all right, maybe with him you can do something. You know, they kind of thought maybe you're not being such a giddy old kid doing that. And it was when, you know, I said to my dad, look, I think I'm going to be on Top of the Pops, Dad. And he was like, right, okay, you can leave college now. if it's going like that. And yeah, it was just insane in that the record just got so big. There was a bunch of imitations. There's like a few tunes which were identical, some of them even having a title very like Hardcore Uproar, which was amusing, and even pretending that they had it before us, when clearly they just jumped on the, you know, the popularity of it. And when it came out, we were on our way. First week, Top of the Pops called and said, we'd like you to record this week's show. You're definitely in the charts. And, you know, so that, you know, I say this casually now, but it was all just completely bonkers. You know what I mean? A few weeks before, you know, studying my A levels. And we were at the train station in Piccadilly, and our manager Adrian had one of the massive brick phones. Very few people had mobile phones at the time, and he said, it's the record label. They said, you might as well go home. We were like, what? Why? We're on our way to Top of the Pops. It's a big dream come true type thing. And they said, they've just found out what label you're on, FFRR. And last week, Orbital went on with Chime and took the piss out of the producers and just sort of weren't even miming and humiliated the producers. And they said, we're not having anyone else on that label doing that. And I think they broke rules, because the rules is to, if you reach a certain chart position, you have to kind of let the artist on, even if you don't want to. So I think they kind of broke rules, but they were just sort of out of spite. It's kind of literally affected our, you know, everything, sales and all sorts of stuff, because you go on there and you're guaranteed going up in the charts.
Yeah.
And even Radio 1 wouldn't touch it. I mean, now they, you know, obviously all about dance music, ironically with Pete Tong as well. And they just wouldn't play it at all. And we're like, it's in the top 20. You know what I mean? You're meant to play it. But the people loved it. You know what I mean? It was just so big in the clubs. And, you know what I mean? That's why it just had a life of its own and just grew. Just got bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, and
What chart position did you end up at?
It was actually in the chart for 8 weeks, and it peaked at number 12.
So you never made it on Top of the Pops. I mean, that's everyone's dream.
We were just about to. I mean, I say everyone's dream, but, you know, I had no plans to be in the music industry. I was at college doing business studies and fashion. You know, I mean, I wasn't, you know, planning on being in music. But
Mate,
you know,
my dream was even to be in the audience on Top of the Pops. Never mind actually on Top of the Pops. I didn't even want to be in the
sure, yeah,
audience.
that would have been cool as well. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, one thing that I have been starting to tell people, because you know, I know we've probably gone over 3 minutes here, but just something which was just sort of controversial was that we made it clear we didn't want to sign to FFRR, and for reasons that have never been explained to us, we were literally forced to sign with them when we thought we were on our, we went to London to sign to Deconstruction Records, and our taxi was diverted somewhere else, and we signed people, which, you know, obviously it was, anything still went well. It's still Pete Tong's label, still respectable and everything, but it wasn't our choice, weirdly. Yeah,
Right.
and we sort of didn't fully know what happened. I mean, you can sort of take, you know, make from that what you want, but I'm careful how I word it, because I don't want to put myself in a position where I end
Yeah.
up with a libel. So I mean, but, yeah, it was bizarre to say the least. That, you know what I mean, we ended up signing with someone we wanted to sign to Deconstruction Record, but on top of that, we signed to Virgin for our publishing, which was, you know, massive, really amazing as well. And, you know, it was, you know, it did really well, obviously, you know what I mean, and its whole legacy, and just people to this day tell me just how it changed their lives, and how they, and, you know, I think it's really, I appreciate that.
Oh, lost that bit. So people tell you how it's
Oh, sorry.
changed their lives.
Yeah, but loads of people, and the producers as well. You know, like PKA, Phil, you remember Phil Kelsey,
Yeah.
who did Let Me Hear You Say Yeah,
Yeah.
Temperatures Rising as well. He said to me that he wasn't that mad at dance music before, and then he heard Black Box, what made him think, oh, this is musical, this is pretty good. And then when he heard Hardcore Uproar, he thought it was the best thing he'd ever heard, and properly got into making tunes, and that it massively inspired him, is what the sound of it and the production and everything. So yeah, you know, even big producers, it's quite amazing to got that sort of feedback. People have been like, even Mark Archer, fairly not that long ago. I've not known Mark for that long, really. He said to me stories about when he heard it out, and how it was an amazing thing for him. So, you know, it's really nice to hear people being inspired by it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, it was a massive tune. I have got it.
Mm-hmm.
I will dig it out. I think it's just so, it was like, it's totally of its time and completely
Mm.
unique, and
Yeah,
stands for everything that was going on with the illegal raves. It is like
yeah,
the
yeah.
illegal rave tune. It's the epitome
Mm.
of an illegal rave, everything about
Yeah,
it, and it's so
yeah.
special and
Mm-hmm.
unique. So yeah,
Mm.
fair play. And you know,
Someone said to me once that if you ever had a time capsule, if you wanted, like in the future, to play someone, to try and explain to someone how what a certain time felt like and sounded like, you could just play them that record, and that sums up
absolutely.
that era. You know what I mean? So, you know, and even people have said you were really clever with your band name together. And the funny thing about that is, I mean, literally the whole story about Hardcore Uproar, you'd be here for hours. But the funny thing about that is, Jonathan sent our cassette to Manchester Evening News unsigned demo chart, and they put it straight to #1. And they said, you need a band name. Can't they say it's called Hardcore Uproar? Because that wasn't our band name, obviously. That was the name of the raves. And he just said, call it the Jam Factory. And that was where I worked after college. And I was so embarrassed by it. I didn't want anyone to
No.
know about that. Now it's really funny. And it even sounds kind of, you know, a bit kind of music-y, you know, stuff like Pump Up the Jam and stuff like that. It would have worked, I guess. But I was like, not a chance. No way. You know, I was like totally mad at him. And the reason why it changed is when we took the demo to the reel to reel before it was on vinyl to 808 State, they said, what's your band name? And we're in the foyer going, shit, we've got to come up with something now. And we together come from the track Love Together by LA Mix. We're like thinking of what are our favourite tunes. We're just thinking of words from tunes that we love. And it was very much on the spot. But it's just perfect together for, you know, a rave tune. Do you know what I mean? It just sort of really works. And especially with the logo that Steve Pickford come up with, you know, it really was
Yeah.
brilliant kind of like font that he drew for and put an advert in his magazine, Freaky Dancing, and it's just sort of like still around today. So yeah, it worked really well. So yeah, it's really nice that it still means so much to people still. You know what I mean? So it really is a great thing. That.